Welcome back.
Hey everyone. So, thanks again for watching our videos. We appreciate it so much. We would love it if you would subscribe, like, hit the bell. That way you get notified every time one of our cool videos comes up.
Yeah. And share.
And share.
If I could turn back time. Sorry.
There is 2 kinds of shares. That was good.
And they're both
And our
great.
next video is going to be Liberty singing different Cher songs. She might even get into some Tina Turner. That'd be cool.
Oops, I did it again. Oh wait, that's Brittany. Sorry.
That is Brittany.
Okay. Anyway. Okay.
So, in our last video, we discussed restorative justice and what it means. And then we started to talk about how Liberty went down to Oregon and visited the man in prison for murdering her brother. So, that is what this video is going to be about, is we're going to discuss what that was like, if you were scared, just
Terrified.
all of the stuff that goes
Yeah.
along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you finally decided that you were going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
was it like, okay, I'm going to do this, I better go do it now because otherwise I'm going to change my mind?
No.
And did you have to get a hold of him and make sure?
No.
Okay.
But the hoops.
Okay.
Department of Corrections. The hoops. There were hoops. Some of them on fire. So, like I said in our earlier video, the prisoners here suggested that I go see Cameron, the man who killed my brother. And it took me about 2 years to even get to the point where I did want to do that. But, I live up here in Alaska. He is incarcerated in Oregon, which is my home state. I don't go home too often. And so it just kind of got pushed to the back burner. And then my mother had some health issues last winter. And I ended up having to go to Oregon and spend 6 months with my parents. And it was kind of that divine timing. I realized I didn't obviously go down to Oregon with the intention of seeing Cameron. I was going to be with my family, but I was there. And I was going to be there for 6 months. And I figured, now or never, when am I going to be back in Oregon? Like I said, I don't go home that often. And so it was November of 2019. And I didn't know how to go visit Cameron. Obviously, he and I have not had contact the whole time he's in prison. He and I did grow up together. So I think that's a part of the story that hasn't been mentioned. We all grew up together. I've known Cameron my whole life.
Okay.
But then obviously had no contact with him since 97 when he went to prison. So November of 2019, I wasn't sure how to go visit Cameron. And so I just got on the Oregon State Department of Corrections website and called the first phone number. Right? And fortunately, immediately got in contact with some really great and helpful people and explained the situation to them. And the first person I talked to, she said that it would not be allowed to happen because I technically am a victim, and victims and offenders aren't allowed to have contact. However, a few days later, someone else called me back.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And he gave me the phone number for Victim Services.
Okay.
Which is a volunteer organization, I guess.
Okay.
That works with the Oregon DOC, Department of Corrections. So I contacted Victim Services, and let me tell you, they're fabulous. They were the most amazing people to work with because this was a really heavy thing.
Right.
And talking to the woman who heads the Victim Services on the phone, she made me feel so comfortable. She never once judged me for wanting to have contact with Cameron. And I just told her what I wanted to do. the time frame for a victim offender dialogue apparently is a year or more. And I told her, well, I live in Alaska. I'm here for a couple months. And so she expedited the process.
What do you mean by a year or more?
So once Victim Services or DOC, I'm actually unclear of how connected those two departments are. But once it's cleared for, yes, you can go see him, you don't just walk into the prison the next day. Both Cameron and I had to go through a multitude of phone interviews with Victim Services to get an intention behind why we wanted to see each other. You know, Victim Services is all about making sure that no more harm is caused to either party.
So kind of safeguarding to make sure the... Okay.
Yeah. And typically that process takes a year or more.
Got it.
But since I was only in town for a short amount of time, she, you know,
awesome.
They were fantastic. I can't say enough about Victim Services in Oregon. And so I was the one who initiated the visit with Cameron, but it was up to Cameron to say yes or no. And he said yes. So that started all of those phone interviews.
Was there any part of you that was secretly hoping he would say no?
No.
Okay.
I was actually really scared that he would say no.
Got it.
And that door would just be immediately closed.
Okay.
So it took, well, I started the process in November. I went into the prison in February to meet with him. So it was quick, but also felt like a lifetime. Right. Having these interviews with Victim Services, and you know, I've never really been an openly emotional person, but having these interviews with the women from Victim Services, I cried. I mean, every time I cried, because it was just like the magnitude of what I was doing.
Right.
And I didn't tell anyone that I was doing it. I obviously was staying with my parents while I was in Oregon. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anyone that I was doing it. So on some level, I was dealing with it completely alone.
Yeah.
So it was pretty intense.
Wow. So what was it like when you got to the prison and saw, well, let's even start from when you're walking, like there's a visiting room, I would imagine.
Yeah, we were like in the education hall at the prison here. It was kind of like that, like a conference room kind of thing. Yeah.
So now, just to set the scene, was there a table? Were you on one side and he's on the other side? No glass?
Nope.
Okay. I really didn't know this. I'm not just asking these for... So, what... Were you walked in first and then he was brought in?
Well, so I want to back up to the day prior to when I went into the prison. I am from Southern Oregon, which is where my parents still are. So I was in Southern Oregon. Well, Cameron at the time was incarcerated over in Eastern Oregon, which was an 8-hour drive. So, like I said, I didn't tell anybody that I was doing this, and I didn't want anyone to know because I had made up my mind about what I needed to do.
Right.
And I didn't want to be influenced by anyone else's opinion about if it was right or wrong. Because for me, it was right.
Right.
So I felt, I'm 40 years old. I'm staying with my parents, and I lied to my parents about where I was going. I felt like a teenager again. I feel so guilty about it still. I'm sorry. I lied to you, Mom.
Yeah, they know now.
Right? I told my parents that I was going over to the coast to hang out with my friend Wendy for a couple days. But I actually went the opposite direction and drove 8 hours across the state. I mean, I drove through parts of Oregon. I was born and raised in Oregon. I drove through parts of Oregon that I never even knew existed. It was like the outback or something. I mean, towns I had never even heard of. And of course, I'm thinking, well, nobody knows where I am. What if I get into a car accident and die? My parents are going to go over to the coast and look for me.
Oh, man.
So I drove across the state to Eastern Oregon, got a hotel room. 2 volunteers from Victim Services flew down from Portland and got a hotel at the same hotel.
They are pretty awesome.
They're amazing. And they're volunteers. What kind of volunteer volunteer goes to Eastern Oregon? So the 3 of us, and those 2 women were going to be in the room with us. Okay. So just me, the 2 of them, and Cameron. No correctional officers, just the 4 of us. So the 3 of us went out to dinner that night, and they prepped me for what to expect. Wanted to see how I was feeling. Did I have any concerns? They were really great about letting me know that I could back out at any moment, but that they believed in me and thought I was strong enough to do it.
Awesome.
And I had 2 conditions for visiting Cameron. The first one was that I didn't want to talk about the crime.
Okay.
Because I already know enough details about what happened to my brother that day. And I didn't feel that I needed to hear them again from him.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to meet with him to ask him why. The why doesn't matter anymore. I mean, does he even know why? He was a 21-year-old kid that was pissed off and on drugs. Like, there really is no answer to the question of why that would make it better.
Right.
So I didn't want to talk about the crime, and I didn't want to shake his hand.
Okay.
And I told the Victim Services volunteers that so they could tell him in advance, because I didn't want there to be that awkward moment where we meet and he sticks his hand out and I'm like, whoa. Yeah. But I did not want any physical contact with him. So the next morning, the 3 of us also met up for coffee, and they went on to the prison themselves and had to get everything all set up and everything. And so I met them at the prison an hour later. And it was terrifying. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Scary doesn't do it justice, but
Were you sick to your stomach?
I was, and I was super shaky and cold, and
it's a lot.
It was a really strange feeling that I can't fully describe. Mm-hmm. And so I parked where they had told me to, and one of the volunteers told me to text her when I parked so that they could come out and get me. And so I parked, I texted her, ditched my phone and all those things. And I am so accustomed to walking into prisons now that going through the razor wire fence and going through the metal detector and getting my visitor badge, it was fine. Mm-hmm. I was fine. And we go into the conference room, and Cameron was down the hall and around the corner waiting for me. He knew that I was there and was getting checked in, but they had him wait around the corner out of sight. And so I went into the conference room. Well, as we're walking up to the room, one of the volunteers says to me, like, the room that they put us in is huge. I think you'll be really comfortable and feel like there's a lot of space between you guys. We walk into this conference room, and it was fucking tiny. It was like the size of this table. And I instantly grabbed the door jamb and was like, no, I can't. I've never had a panic attack before, but I think that's what happened. Like, I instantly was shaking, was freezing cold, was crying without even realizing it and couldn't breathe. It was such an awful feeling, and I have a lot more sympathy for people now who do have panic attacks. It was terrible. So one of the volunteers, she sat next to me and was like rubbing my back and kind of like pep talking me, but also saying, you can walk out right now. Like, we can get up and walk away right now. And then the correctional officer that was getting us situated in the room, she went and got me water. But I was shaking so bad that I couldn't even drink the water, but my mouth was dry, and all these awful things were happening to me. And that went on for about 15 minutes. And all of a sudden, I don't even know where it came from, but the thought came into my mind that if I'm this scared, how scared is Cameron? And that instantly made me just calm down. All the anxiety, most of the anxiety went away. I stopped shaking.
Wow.
Drank like a whole Brita water pitcher of water, and but it was a pretty powerful moment thinking about him, like how he probably was thinking that I was there to scream at him and tell him that I hate him.
Right.
So if I was that scared, how scared was he?
That is fascinating to me. That thought would come into your mind, and then it would kind of set your mind at ease.
Yeah.
Actually, just the concern of, what if he's like having a panic attack right now too?
Right.
You know? And yet he still said, okay, even if she screams obscenities at me, I'm at least gonna go and
let her.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
Yeah. So
you could drink your water. You were good.
I drank my water, but then halfway through talking to him, I really had to pee. So that one kind of backfired on me, but that's okay. So yeah, it was
those, what did you call them? The victim
offender dialogue, VOD.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Like, if any of them somehow watch this video, I want to give you huge props, huge shout out. That's amazing. They made sure you knew it's about you. You want to leave even when everything has been set up, just say a word.
Yeah.
Meeting you there, that's incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean, and huge shout out to the people I worked with at Victim Services in Oregon. I felt so comfortable every step of the way. I felt genuinely cared for and important. And it's all because of those 3 women, the 2 that came to Eastern Oregon to go in with me, and the woman who works in the Portland office. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. I cannot say enough about them.
That's awesome. So you guys are probably wondering, okay, well, what happened? What happened? You have to wait till the next video because there's no way we're going to rush through that.
No.
So.
And we're out of time.
Exactly. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, share, hit that bell, and thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Bye.